Today we're checking out our options for 0 mana signature spells in Oathbreaker, specifically white ones in this video. All of these cards you can cast when you're tapped out, which means you can cast them the same turn that you cast your Oathbreaker if you want to. Let's start this off with the removal options, and I'm going to put them in order from my least favorite to my most favorite. Patrician Scorn destroys all enchantments, that really doesn't do enough. Same with Abolish, destroying an artifact or enchantment just doesn't do enough for a signature spell. Marrow Shards costs 1 Phyrexian mana, which means you can pay 2 life rather than pay any mana. Marrow Shards deals 1 damage to each attacking creature. Now, I really want this to be good because I love Phyrexian mana, but your opponents can see this coming from the command zone, and I'm not sure it's really enough anyways. Devouring Light exiles target attacking or blocking creature, and it's got Convoke, so each creature you tap while you cast the spell pays for 1 of its mana cost. Cut Short also has Convoke, but it destroys target Planeswalker that was activated this turn or tapped creature. In a format ruled by Planeswalkers, this one seems pretty decent actually. Granted, I don't love Convoke for casting things for free. How often are you going to have 3 creatures to tap to get these down to 0? But what I do love about Convoke is that Convoke can pay the commander tax. So if your deck can get that many creatures out, then your signature spell can be 0 mana more than once. Sunscour destroys all creatures, and you may exile 2 white cards from your hand rather than pay its mana cost. That is a really steep alternate cost, especially in a color that doesn't really draw cards well. That said, there is real power in casting your Oathbreaker and wiping the board of creatures in 1 turn. Next is Shining Shoal, and I'm going to read the oracle text instead of the actual card. You may exile a white card with mana value X from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. The next X damage that a source of your choice would deal to you and or creatures you control this turn is dealt to any target instead. So you cannot prevent damage dealt to a Planeswalker you control. You can, however, redirect damage to a Planeswalker, or of course to a creature or an opponent's face. Seems pretty good to me. And my favorite removal card is Hour of Reckoning with Convoke. Destroy all non-token creatures. In a token-heavy build, this is more likely to be free. I know 7 creatures is a lot to ask for, but it is doable, and this is a one-sided board wipe in a token deck. In making videos for this channel, I've looked at over 1,000 different Oathbreaker deck lists, and I can tell you that this is one of the more popular free signature spell options. There is one in this video that might have a slight edge on this one, and I'll let you know when we get to that. Next, we're going to talk about signature spells that make creatures. Triplicate Spirits makes 3 1/1 flyers. Tapping 6 creatures to get this down to 0 mana is a big ask though. That's asking for a lot. Though I do like that the creatures that it makes can be tapped to cast this spell itself again later. I'm going to throw March of the Multitudes in this video too, even though it's got green. I've got to put the spell somewhere. It's got Convoke and create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. And it's an instant. I love this one. Angelic Favor. If you control a planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying Angelic Favor's mana cost. Cast only during combat. Put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying into play. Exile it at end of turn. Yeah, it sounded really good right up until the end there, didn't it? I guess the angel is just for blocking. It's still a decent card, although it loses even more value because they can see it coming from the command zone. Return to the Ranks returns X target creature cards with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it's got Convoke. Pretty good for a low mana deck, and I've seen this one in a handful of lists. Next, we've got a couple combat tricks. Ramosian Rally. If you control a planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying its mana cost. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. And Aerial Boost with Convoke. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. And this last batch is protection spells and damage prevention. Ephemeral Shields has Convoke. Target creature gains indestructible till end of turn. Orum's Cure. If you control a planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying its mana cost. Prevent the next 4 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. Seevy's Valor. If you control a planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying its mana cost. All damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn is dealt to you instead. Is this good? I don't know. It probably has its uses though. Now here is a good one. Clever Concealment with Convoke. Any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. That can include your Oathbreaker, and remember, phasing doesn't affect the counters, so when it comes back in, it will have the same number of counters. Reverent Mantra, you may exile a white card from your hand instead of paying its mana cost. All creatures gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Strangely, this includes your opponent's creatures. That means that this can not only be used to protect your creatures or to get through combat damage, but could also be used as a really strange type of counterspell thing. If your opponent casts a spell targeting one of their creatures, you can give all creatures protection from the color of the spell that is targeting their creature. Then the spell doesn't have a legal target and it fizzles. This is probably going to take them by surprise the first time. Now here's a weird one. Scars of the Veteran. You may exile a white card in your hand from the game instead of paying its mana cost. Prevent up to 7 damage to target creature or player. For each 1 damage to a creature prevented by Scars of the Veteran, put a +0/+1 counter on that creature at end of turn. What? This would definitely not get printed today. This is an old Alliances card, and fun fact, this is the white Force of Will. Force of Will, which you probably know, is a very powerful counter spell, but most people don't know that it was a cycle. Probably because Force of Will was the only good one. This one isn't even close to as good, although it is a cool card. And last, the other most popular card on this list, Flawless Maneuver. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible till end of turn. That's right, no alternate cost, it's just plain old free. It's hard to beat that. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. On a channel as small as mine, every single like helps a ton. I've got a bunch more Oathbreaker videos on my channel, so you can check those out if that sounds interesting to you. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.